Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dal. Patch 11.1 is finally out on the PTR realms, which are available for everybody to dive in and to test all of the newest content, updates, class changes, but also some of its newer systems like the D.R.I.V.E system, which is a new form of transportation that we'll be utilizing around the zone of Undermine. Very much inspired by the system of skywriting, this new D.R.I.V.E does have things like momentum and speed and drift even to help you get around the new zone, and it functions very differently than normal mounts do. It is a lot more dynamic, and even moving around getting from A to B can be fun in its own way. It is still a fledgling new system that likely still needs to go through a number of changes based on community feedback, but the early impressions from the community have been very positive so far. Today's video, I wanted to take a deeper dive at this D.R.I.V.E system, the customization, how it performs, and really go over exactly what the system is and what you can expect out of it going forward. As always, if you guys want to see more regular updates for the patch 11.1 over on the PTR, be sure to follow the channel and subscribe. But otherwise, let's dive right in. Now, when you first get to the zone of Undermine, very quickly you'll learn that you can't skywrite in the zone at all. No matter how many times you mount up on your mount and try to take off, they just don't fly. This zone is unique in that way that it's not a flying zone, but even if you can't skywrite, it doesn't mean that you'll have a slow time getting around everywhere, because fairly early on, you get access to the D.R.I.V.E system. You will have to do the main story questline in order to even be able to unlock the zone of Undermine, which took me a little bit of time. It's just a bunch of quests in Regular Deeps until you eventually unlock this new area. Technically, you can access it early, but doing the skip does not allow you to earn the vehicle, so you will need to do the main story questline. And the vehicle may also be one of those things we get to unlock early on because of PTR testing, so I'm not exactly sure if we're supposed to earn it this quickly and have all the customizations unlocked day one, but part of it might just come down to it's PTR that want us to be able to test it properly. So right now it seems like you get it really early on, but that may change in the near future. But once you get the vehicle, you can just start using it in order to be able to traverse everywhere around town, and it is really quick. But also the fact that the vehicle is very customizable, which ideally allows you to fine-tune your experience of how you traverse around the zone of Undermine. Now, once you get to the Undermine and once you unlock the shop, you'll be able to go back to the shop and unlock the ability to customize your vehicle through a variety of different ways. And it's fairly easy. You just go talk to a D.R.I.V.E NPC, access D.R.I.V.E, and it gives you a panel on the left-hand side that allows you to further customize this vehicle. You can either set a paint job, which is just a customization thing, choosing between colors like red, green, blue, yellow, or go back to neutral to start the vehicle with its original base design. But then from there, you also get to customize a variety of different functionality benefits of the vehicle. Each vehicle, you'll be able to customize your engine, which controls your top speeds, but also your acceleration. You'll start out with a very basic one of POSIX standard, and either you can unlock these later down the line, or these are given to you immediately, and there's more engines to unlock in the future. I'm not exactly sure. It is PTR. They do want us to test this thing, so maybe they unlock everything for us from the get-go. But at least in PTR, you start off with POSIX Standard, Ultra, as well as Airmaster. The Standard just gives you average top speeds and acceleration, which is like the balanced version. Then you have the Ultra G77C, which decreases top speed but buffs acceleration, or you can go the reverse, decrease acceleration but buff your top speed. For your wheels, these control the traction whenever you are drifting on a vehicle. These will control the grip that you have for your vehicle. You can either have average grip or better grip with the 222H slicks, or actually drifting decrease so you have a bit more of a glide with the GE86. Further down, we have the turbo, which every single vehicle has access to. The turbo is basically how you sprint towards and how you boost your vehicle around town. This one can also be adjusted a little bit, although the tooltips aren't great. Wild Fuel seems to be the one that's most balanced, where you have average boost speed, average efficiency. Then you could also either increase efficiency but decrease boost, or do the opposite, but right now tooltips claim that it does exactly the same. And then finally down below you have Passenger, which is just a customization thing. None of these work right now in PTR, but you'll be able to add a passenger of either none or maybe a Louis Fire Hands, which looks like a crab icon. There's Zap's Leadfoot, so probably a goblin. Then there's also Jack's Jibberjaw and Axel's Sneak Food, so it looks like you might be able to have passengers to just customize into your vehicle just for the fun of it. But outside of that, you can just come back here and customize your vehicle anytime you want to, and all these customization options actually do affect how your vehicle performs when driving around town in the Undermine. And as you're exploring the open world content, it looks like you'll be able to come up on different treasures and items that can then be used to further customize your vehicle. Like I found a hand crank fuel injector, which needs to be combined with a casing, gears, mounting system to assemble the G99 Breakneck. And it looks like a lot of these items you can get from either slaying rares or mini bosses out in the open world or looting treasures. So exploring the open world is how you'll be able to get a lot of different customization parts for your vehicle, so you can have even more, I guess, control regarding your handling, regarding your turbos, regarding how you get around town, your drift, and all these other components, which I think is fairly neat. Now, the actual car controls themselves is very similar to skywriting, but basically for ground movement, but all of these same components of skywriting also apply here. One of the most important things that came with skywriting is momentum, and momentum is everything. With this type of system, it applies the momentum, but it definitely feels very, very different when driving on the ground compared to flying in the sky. But it has the same ideas behind it of momentum is everything. Like once you start driving the car and then you let go of the acceleration, it still keeps going forward for a little bit unless you properly try to brake on the vehicle. And even then, the momentum will still have your car going forward just a little bit further. And that is something that I think is going to be very, very difficult to portray in a video format. This is kind of the same system of skywriting, but just on the ground, but it's really difficult to really translate that feeling of what's it like to move around with this just with video alone. It is one of those things that needs to be experienced firsthand in order to fully understand it. It takes a little bit of while to get used to with all the turns and the way that you can customize the vehicle, because your customizations really do adjust the handling. A lot of the times at the very beginning, I was running into walls or running into other doodads and really slowing down my movement, but after a little bit of time with a bit of practice, you can get used to it. While skywriting utilizes a lot of movement abilities with vigor charges, this one does have a resource and abilities, but not nearly as many. Primarily, there's the boost functionality for every single vehicle. As you drift around town, or as you pick up these, I guess would be turbo buffs on the ground, as you pick them up, you collect even more power towards that turbo, and whenever you use the ability of boost, it spends the turbo like a resource in order to help you get around town quicker. Now, the turbo can be customized in a variety of different ways. It can either expand all that turbo meter quicker, giving you a much bigger boost, or it can give you a little bit of spending at a time, but also give you not as big of a boost, so you can have a little bit better control of your vehicle. But it definitely is a system where the player is encouraged to drift around on the vehicle in order to rebuild this meter, and that'll be even more important when going through some of the different races within the Undermine as well. And I'd say the boost is probably the fastest way for you to pick up speeds as soon as you start to slow down a little, though I found it to be a little bit difficult to use when you have a lot of sharp turns in the Undermine. I usually try to save my boost in most cases whenever I have a straight line that I can just ride down where I don't necessarily need to turn, because especially if you get some of the engine upgrades that really buff up your boost so you really go breakneck speeds, it becomes very, very difficult to control. The drive vehicle also comes with an extra button for start jobs, where you can do jobs for Nanny Tula, which are basically delivery jobs all across town. And while you do those, you can also gain a little bit of Valor Stones, a little bit of the Resonance Crystals, so nothing super impactful as a currency, but it also could be used as a way for you to be able to get used to the driving around town on this vehicle. And if you just do a bunch of jobs, you'll go to various locations, pick up packages, and travel all across town. And it's probably like the best way for you to practice while doing these little missions, while also being able to get a few different resources here and there. And so far with the drive thing, I've been experimenting with it a bunch, driving all over town, completing a variety of different races, really testing the limits of the system as it is right now over on the PTR. I will say this is PTR Realms, and this system is by no means final. I think what they're probably going to do is tune the acceleration, top speeds, how the boost functions, as well as some of the physics regarding the vehicle and how it gets around the open world content. But the vehicle is very, very, very fast. Like if you really want to fully customize it to be the most amount of speed, especially top speed, you actually can go faster than skywriting. So when they advertise it as technically you can go faster than your flying mount, this vehicle actually can. Maybe to some detriment because WoW's engine is fairly old, and this is something that WoW engine has always had troubles with, is if a player's moving way too quickly, they can result some issues. I'll talk about those in a second here, but Yeah, it moves so fast that it actually causes the engine to sometimes do some weird things and really bug out. The drifting is incredibly fun though. It is a little finicky because the jump button and drift is on the same keybind, and I'll talk about that in a second because there's also some weird interactions. Might just be a PTR only thing, but the drift is so fun once you customize the car exactly how you like it. I tried a bunch of different drifts and I definitely found my personal preference when it comes to drifting, but it's so cool. Once you get yourself that right angle and you got the turn, you could literally just drift in circles over and over and over around that big statue in front of the Bellagio Hotel. It is super fun. Drifting around turns and corners does take a little bit of practice, so you're not going to be able to immediately start doing this. I definitely had a lot of hard time with it from the get-go, but once you get the angles, once you have a better idea of when you want to start drifting and you can land those turns, oh, it is satisfying. Actually, probably the most fun part of this entire system. Also, while you're in the vehicle out in the open world, the vehicle actually has a slightly smaller aggro range, so as you get near mobs, you can get past them super easily. It's very nice when it comes to getting around town. So if there's an area full of elites, full of mobs, as long as you're driving in your car, you can actually get past them pretty easily. They don't aggro onto you immediately unless you literally drive right on top of them, which makes exploring out in the open world really nice and convenient. I also very much like how customizing the vehicle really does feel different. It's not just a cosmetic change, it's actually a performance change between your top speeds, between your acceleration, between your turning with the wheels and the boost and how that functions. You can really customize it to really adjust the experience however you like. Like initially, the vehicle starts out with just a bog standard setup where everything is normalized. Nothing is tuned up or down in terms of your settings. And it's a decent starter, but I found for me it was just a little much. I had a hard time with some of the races and practicing those things. I felt like I was just constantly crashing into stuff. And I felt like whenever I tried to get a turn or a drift, it wasn't quite meeting my expectations. But then I went to the vehicle, adjusted my setups to go for higher top speeds, less acceleration, less aggressive boost whenever I do use the turbo boost, but also much more aggressive drift. So the tires are better at catching me and really getting those corner turns, and that was the perfect setup for me. There may be the best setup in the future. Somebody may figure out the best one when it comes to getting through all the races or having the best performance within the Undermine, but the fact that you can customize it and really try out a variety of different builds, potentially with even more parts for us to collect in the future, I think that's really cool, and how all these customizations actually have an impact in how your vehicle performs, and really I think we're able to deliver on that fairly well. Now, there are some issues that I'm hoping that they fix with the drive system. Like having drift and jump on the same keybind, I felt was a little bit rough at times. Especially maybe it's just PTR and there's a bit of delay with MS on PTR, where sometimes I mean to drift, but the car jumps. Or sometimes you mean to jump, but the car drifts. And it seems to be the drift is based on if you're turning and you press space. So it seems like whenever you turn just slightly to the left or slightly to the right when you're looking at your turn with your mouse held down, the car will start to drift when you need it to jump. And there have been multiple times where I got caught into things that I didn't mean to, and then the vehicle is basically stuck. And it's just not a great experience, especially with some of the races that I've been able to experience. Also, you'll randomly DC if the vehicle goes way too quickly. There are times if you are boosting and you have a ramp and it shoots you way up, it feels like the game breaks to some degree because it just can't handle these speeds, and I think it comes down mostly to just WoW's engine. At times, and I feel like whenever you play Demon Hunter in particular, there are some moments where Demon Hunter rush and the game kind of lags a little, and it causes the character to shoot out way faster and way further than it meant to, and then the game can sometimes crash and DC you completely when that happens. And I think something similar is happening here with the vehicle. When you start driving and you start sprinting and you move just a little bit too fast, the game just can't quite handle it, and then you just get DC'd. And sometimes when you load back in, it puts you back in the vehicle and then shoots you back to those same speeds to have you DC again. I've gotten into some of those DC loops a couple of times, so hopefully that will get fixed in the future. But yeah, the game does not seem to really like the whole speeds when it comes to the vehicle and really testing the limits of those speeds in particular. Also, the city of Undermine is a dense city. While it is one of the smaller new zones that they've added for a major content update, it is dense. I mean, there's so much detail in every single building, in every single what feels like area of town. And when you're driving on streets, there's a lot of trash and a lot of little doodads everywhere that decorate the city, which looks awesome. It looks lived in. But when it comes to the vehicle, vehicle, just hitting one of those little decorations, even a little, can have your vehicle go from max speed to just halted completely. And when you're going through some of those different races out there, when you're trying to beat the timer, being caught by a random pixel of a plank of wood that's on the ground that barely touched your vehicle, it is frustrating, like extremely frustrating. So maybe they might have to clean those things up a little bit in terms of how the vehicle interacts with those little doodads as you get around corners, as you get around town, and maybe remove some of the collision points between the vehicle and those items. But yeah, right now it just feels like there are times where certain races and certain corners, like you either just have to completely slow down, not boost. You can't really do the drift as easily because otherwise you're just most likely going to get caught on something. And when it happens, having to restart a race, I don't know, 5, 10, 15 times in a row because you keep getting on that one little pixel, it is definitely frustrating. But if I had to mention anything, the first impressions are very, very good. The system itself does seem like it has a lot of potential. Everybody on the PTR so far seems to be enjoying it a lot, although everybody is aware that, yeah, it's not perfect, but the bones of it seem really, really cool. And it took a little bit for dragon riding and sky riding to evolve into what it is today, so I'm sure they're going to take a lot of community feedback and make adjustments to either the engine or the way the vehicle performs, or maybe the physics behind it with momentum and all that, in order to really fine-tune that experience. But with that, as always, I do want to thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I hope you guys did enjoy this 11.1 update. If you did enjoy it or found it informative, go ahead and give this video a like. I would very much appreciate that. Also, join our Discord community. We'll be posting even more stuff regarding patch 11.1 over on the PTR quite often, with the patch finally being available for us to test and all the different things for us to discover. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and as always, I'll see all of you guys in the next one.